In October 2019, DJI released the compact drone that got thousands of people into the hobby, myself included. I'm of course talking about the Mavic Mini. This drone was stable and reliable like the bigger, more expensive drones, while also being affordable to the entry-level user and coming in under 250 grams. The reason that's important is because here in the US, the FAA requires all drones above this weight to be registered, which is a hoop that a lot of people don't want to jump through. And for this reason, DJI made this drone 249 grams, turning their nose up to the FAA and their regulations. Now, my wife got me this drone for Christmas in 2019, and little did she know she would be giving me the gateway drug into a hobby that would completely take over my free time for the next 5 years and beyond. But now, with us just past the 5-year anniversary of this little guy hitting shelves, I thought it would be a good time to show you how well it's held up in its old age and see if it's still worth buying in 2025. Let's find out. Now, just some quick specs about the Mavic Mini before we see it fly. If you know the specs already or you don't care to hear them, you can go ahead and skip ahead by scrolling to the next chapter in the timeline below. DJI's first iteration of the Mini series featured a 2.7K camera with a 1/2.3-inch CMOS sensor, advertised 30 minutes of flight time, and a scale 4 wind rating, which means that it was supposed to be able to handle winds up to 18 miles per hour, which is classified as a moderate breeze. It supposedly could travel a max range of 4 kilometers or about 13,000 feet and still maintain the connection to the controller, all while being so small that you could easily keep it in your bag or car for whenever an opportunity to fly would present itself. With the huge success of the Mavic Mini, it was no surprise that DJI would release an upgrade the following year in the Mini 2. Just about every year since, DJI releases a new line of mini drones, and they really do compete in a class of much larger, more expensive drones. Feeling nostalgic about my first drone, I'm gonna set out to answer some of the very specific questions about how well it performs after 5 years and ultimately give you my ruling on whether or not that this tiny little powerhouse is still worth buying in 2025. Let's start with the most important detail: how well does it fly? So my Mini has sat basically collecting dust for a long time. The batteries need charged, the firmware needed updated, and the drone in general just needed inspection. After an hour or so, I had it ready to take for a flight outside. And to my surprise, the Mini took to the air and performed exactly as it had the first time out of the box. It's truly amazing how steady this little guy is. It locks in on the satellites and it stays put. The controls are very responsive, and even moving it back and forth, it just feels like a bigger drone. One issue I did encounter was that apparently cell phones have gotten a lot larger in the last 5 years, so my Samsung S24 Ultra didn't really want to fit in the arms of the controller. In later models, they changed this and made it easier to fit larger phones or even tablets into the controller. But in the theme of it being mini, I guess it checks out that they wouldn't expect you to have a large device to put into this. I'm obviously not gonna fly this thing 4 kilometers away from me, making it impossible to maintain visual line of sight, which is required by the FAA. But sending it out as far as I can while still keeping my eyes on it gave me no problems with transmission. Now that we know how well it can fly, let's see how long it can fly. Brand new in 2019, DJI said that you could get 30 minutes of flight time out of the Mavic Mini. Now, bear in mind, that's under perfect conditions with no wind. So don't actually expect to get that out of a real life flight in actual weather conditions. But for the sake of argument, I put my Mini up in my backyard to see how long it can simply hover. No joystick inputs, just hovering. And to my surprise, after the battery's spending literally years not being used and sitting in my LiPo battery fireproof bag, link in the description, I was really surprised that the Mini was actually able to get a solid 21 minutes and 34 seconds of flight time. That's really impressive for a 5-year-old drone, which I don't need to tell you is ancient in drone years. So the Mini checks another box in the win column. Now let's look at video quality. So one reason DJI needed to release the Mini 2 so quickly after the success of the Mavic Mini 1 was the camera. This drone was great upon release, but as soon as people saw how great it was at flying, they naturally hoped it could have a better camera. I don't know if it was to keep the weight below the 250 gram limit, or the price of having a better camera on board scaring away new customers looking to dip their toes into the hobby. But in 2019, DJI thought 4K was not a possibility for the Mavic Mini, so they gave it 2.7K. With the Mini 2 a year later, we got what we wanted in 4K. But was it really a big enough difference in the end product? Let's look at a side-by-side of the Mini 1 and the Mini 2, and let's see the quality comparison. So I guess I would answer this question by saying it all depends on what you're doing with your footage. If you're uploading it to Facebook or social media, I don't think that the 2.7K looks bad at all. And after those platforms compress the video, it won't really matter anyway. But if you're taking videos or photos for business or a higher end production, the 4K is the way to go. So DJI did good pivoting quickly to the 4K video in the Mini 2. 4K is still the standard in the latest Mini release, the 4 Pro, although the sensor has now improved to a 1/1.3 inch sensor. One last detail I want to look at before I make my decision on whether or not the Mavic Mini is still worth buying in 2025 is the price. How much is it selling for online today compared to what it went for back on release date? Now for this video, I'm going to tell you the price for the Fly More combo, and I'll explain why. With nearly all DJI products, they sell the base model as well as a Fly More combo or a creator combo that comes with more accessories and goodies. These are usually extra batteries, more propellers, carrying cases, and more freebies that aren't included in the base model. I learned after getting both my Mavic Mini and my Osmo Pocket 2 that if you got the base model and then later decided you wanted more of those accessories, it was way cheaper just to get the combo from the beginning. By the time you buy one extra battery, you've almost already spent the difference between the base price and the combo price. So it just makes sense to buy the combo the first time around. Trust me, just learn from my mistakes. On release day back in 2019, the DJI Mavic Mini Fly More combo would cost you $499. This got you the drone, the controller, 3 batteries along with a charging hub, a case, and some all-around prop guards if you wanted to fly indoors. So now fast forward to today, we look on Amazon to find that very same Fly More combo listed for sale by DJI, $434. 5 years later, you can buy this drone for $65 less than you could on day one, which doesn't sound like a great discount, but let's compare it to other models in the Mini series where you can get the Mini 2 for $579, the Mini 3 for $719, or the Mini 4 for $1,088. Now it's hard to compare some of those against each other when you get into the Pro models and when they start to include a nicer controller with a built-in screen. So, I mean, we can fight about that in the comments. So really, if you are looking for longer lasting quality or customer support, you'll want to go with one of the newer iterations. But the OG Mavic Mini still gives you a great time while saving you a few extra bucks. It all depends on your budget and, again, what you're looking to do with it. So all this to answer one question: is the DJI Mavic Mini still worth it in 2025? And honestly, yes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna take this with me on a paid job where the customer wants the absolute best video possible out of my drone fleet. Also, I'm not flying this in a situation where trees or obstacles may get in between the controller and the drone because the signal just isn't strong enough for that. But sometimes you don't need all that and you just wanna something you can grab quickly and get in the air at a moment's notice. And for that reason, this drone is still fantastic. Now, as with all cameras, the best one for the job is the one you have with you. And sometimes, depending on if I'm working or traveling or going on vacation, I'm not always gonna be able to bring this big case along with me to use my Mavic Air 2. And maybe I don't wanna bring my Mini 2 because I need to save that 4K camera as a backup drone for actual paid gigs. But I still want something I can play with and have fun flying. In those scenarios, I'm still more than happy breaking out the old Mavic Mini, the one who started it all. The drone I cut my teeth with in the hobby, and still to this day, the best Christmas gift my wife has ever gotten me. Trust me, she regrets it every day. Because little did she know, she was starting me down a path to which there was no turning back. For that, I thank her, because without that, there would be no Drone Dad channel, and I wouldn't get the chance to make videos for all of you. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and have hit the subscribe button by now, but if not, give it a try. I've got some cool stuff here, and I love growing a community where we can just share our passion for flying. If you are new to drones and looking for one to get started with, I'll leave a couple links in the description below where you can pick one up. They are affiliate links, so I do get a small commission for your purchase without costing you anything extra. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.